After what feels like forever, Crimson Desert is finally here. And the big question is it actually good? Does it
Is
play
it
like
actually
it
good?
looks? And is the game fun? Well, first up, a big thank you to
Because I want
Purpose
to
for
buy the
providing us
game. I
with
just don't
early
know yet.
review access. It's been pretty surreal, to be
I'm
honest,
pretty
because we've been
convinced a
covering
little
this
bit
game on the
now.
channel for over 6 years, all the way back to its
Need
initial
further
reveal.
confirmation.
So finally getting hands-on time with the finished game has been a long time coming. And when I say hands-on
I feel like
time,
it
I
has a
mean
lot of
a
secret
lot
stuff
of
going on
time.
to the game. I like
This game
secrets in
is
games.
massive. We saw a lot of other reviewers saying they weren't sure if they could finish it before the embargo, so me and 26 basically split this one down the middle. I took a slower approach, more like perhaps you will play the game, exploring the world, doing side content, really getting a feel for its systems and how it plays. Meanwhile, 26 went into full grind mode to push through the main story so we could see everything into the end game, how the story progresses, the pacing and all that kind of stuff. So between the two of us, we have a really solid understanding of the game from both sides. And a big shout out to 26 as well, because finishing this took multiple 16-hour days. This game is no joke. Also, just for you, there are no story spoilers in this video. We'll be using early gameplay and trailers, so when you jump in fresh, you'll experience things for yourself without a worry here. We'll start with what Crimson Desert actually is for anyone that's unsure or hasn't been following along. At its core, it's an open-world action-adventure RPG. It's on PC and consoles, and honestly, just calling it this doesn't really do it justice. This is one of those games that is pulling in inspiration from everywhere, but somehow ends up feeling like its own unique thing. The easiest way I could describe it is to imagine elements of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom, and Breath of the Wild with The Witcher and Assassin's Creed, and a bit of chaotic GTA energy, but in a fantasy setting sprinkled on top. Yes, I know this sounds crazy, like what the heck even is that?
That's a good way.
That's what this game
Explain
is.
it.
This game constantly throws in new systems, mechanics, and ideas at you. Even after you've played 20, 30, 40 hours, you're still discovering something you didn't even realize was possible. And while that is exciting, it can be overwhelming at times, especially early on. Now, let's talk about the story, because when it comes to this, it mainly focuses on reuniting the Greymanes early on. This actually ends up giving you a pretty touching narrative with some genuinely emotional moments. But as you progress, it sort of expands the story into a much larger world threat, bringing in more magical elements and even some unexpected technology. Plus, one thing that stands out in the game has got to be the voice acting. It's one of those things where people are either going to love it or hate it, but personally, we really liked it. The dialogue often feels quite raw and unfiltered. There's a lot of swearing in it, it's very grounded, and honestly, as a Brit, some of the banter just felt natural. Now, that said, at the very start, it can feel a bit over the top, but the more you play, the more it actually fits in with the world when you get a better picture of everything. Now, compared to our preview that you may have seen, where the story did feel a little disjointed, the full release version is definitely more coherent. I wouldn't say it's amazing, but it is good. And interestingly, some of the smaller and quieter moments actually hit harder than some of the big spectacle scenes. That said, there are still some amazing set pieces like castle sieges that will absolutely stick with you afterwards. Now, while the story is obviously an important aspect of a single player game, this game is very much a game that you will probably be playing for the gameplay, the exploration, and the discovery that is everywhere. The story does support this, so it's not the main reason that you really get that itch to come back. There are some drawbacks though, nothing is really perfect, and part of that is the fact that the story does constantly use this specific helmet that kind of gives you a flashback system to go back to people's memories in a particular area to explain what's going on or what happened. And while that's alright the first few times, it would be nice if these were proper fleshed out cutscenes and were a bit more involved. On top of that, some quest objectives can be very vague. If you like Elden Ring's style of absolute minimal guidance, then you might enjoy that, but if you prefer a bit more direction and being told what to do, it can be frustrating. But honestly, because we really like Elden Ring, we didn't really mind it too much. Now, in terms of the length of the game, 26's more story-focused playthrough came in at around 90 hours. And one of the wild things is that even after finishing the game, we are still discovering entirely new areas, even a brand new city, and more. There's
Damn.
stuff in the launch trailer that you may have seen here, which we haven't even experienced after beating the story, so it's kind of insane by just how much side content and awesome things there are outside of the main narrative and the main story bosses. Now, let's talk about the gameplay, because this is where the game really shines. Combat is honestly one of the strongest aspects here. Everything you've seen in the trailers is real. You've got these crazy combos, these wrestling-style moves, a big skill tree where each node has multiple upgrade options that unlock new moves and abilities, and all that good stuff. It just is very
That's what
satisfying.
I want.
But what keeps it fresh is the fact that you can switch characters, and they each have their own playstyle, different weapons, their own skill tree, and gear. So even after playing dozens and dozens of hours, you're still learning new things.
Damn, she just
not perfect though. For example, each character has their own skill tree to learn and unlock. If you do like playing the different characters, you have to have all of their equipment in your inventory and switch things in and out, and it's just not as streamlined as it could be. Also, we were told in the preview that skills would transfer between characters, but in our experience from playing the game, that doesn't seem to be the case. So it feels like you're always chasing after skill points. Now let's touch on puzzles, because this is also a big part of the experience. Some of them are genuinely great and are really rewarding to figure out, especially if you enjoy that sense of discovery and doing things on your own. But others can be very frustrating, especially when they're completely unguided and you're just hard stuck. So that aspect of the game will come down to what type of player you are. But then there's just the sheer amount of things you can do in this game. You can take on bounties where you literally hunt someone down, tackle them, beat them up, hogtie them,
that's
chuck
a
them on your
girl.
horse, and take them all the way back to prison. Then you can just help villagers, dynamic events out in the world where you can free people that are being attacked by bandits, or just go full chaos and steal things, pickpocket people, rob wagons to sell, even steal people's livestock to sell. The freedom here is honestly incredible. The gear system also goes pretty deep with armor, weapons, upgrades, consumables, abyss cores, and more. But early on, the gear progression does feel very underwhelming. Most items you get early feel like side grades rather than upgrades, and it's not really until later in the game that you start finding genuinely exciting gear. Also, the controls are something that takes some time to get used to. The game does a good job at gradually teaching you all of the things you can do, but there's a lot going on, and a lot of it requires multiple button combinations and inputs, especially on controller, so it can be a bit tricky trying to figure it all out. But once it clicks, it feels really good, and it's the same for mouse and keyboard. I think the game actually plays better on mouse and keyboard, but it's a very strange setup and layout to learn, so again, it takes a while to learn, and then when it clicks, you're all good.
Okay. That's good news.
Now, I know a lot of people are excited about riding the dragon. And honestly, this part of the game is a bit of a mixed bag. When it works, it's awesome. But actually getting on the dragon can be weirdly clunky. And you often need to use a workaround to mount it, which is quite annoying. On the flip side, the mech sections of the game actually work really well.
That looks pretty cool, though.
Fun. As for the bosses, however, there's a huge variety in them, and they can be seriously challenging. We actually enjoyed this, but they can feel a bit unbalanced at times. Some moments felt borderline unfair in those boss fights, especially in our review build, where you could get revived and instantly just killed again. This, however, is getting patched in the day one patch, so pretty good for you guys. Again, some bosses were incredible and felt incredible, and others just not so much. It was very inconsistent. And interestingly, we actually found some of the earlier bosses were harder than the later ones, so the pacing was a bit weird with them too. Now let's talk about the world, because this is where Crimson Desert also stands out. It is massive, like genuinely overwhelming in its scale. It's also packed with things to do. Quests, secrets, vendors, enemies, wildlife, resources, it just keeps going as you explore. Now, as you know, 2.6 mostly focused on finishing the story, and well, he only uncovered about 60% of the map. Meanwhile, I've been taking my time, and I haven't even cleared the first few regions properly. It's just so big. It's easily one of the most impressive open worlds we've played in, and it just looks great too. The world also feels alive. There's dynamic weather, day-night cycles, NPCs walking around, they react to you. You can go into almost any building in the game. The level of immersion is genuinely impressive. Traversal is also varied. You can ride your horse, you can run around, there's other mounts, you can fast travel.
I might have been wrong about Crimson Desert.
You can climb up
I
cliffs.
might been
There's
wrong
even things
about
like
the game.
hot air balloons if you unlock them. It is one of those game worlds where everything just surprises you. On top of
I
that,
like
there's
surprises.
interactions with all kinds of things in the environment. You can set things on fire, punch trees over, launch yourself into the air, swing around. It's just chaos in the best way once you really get to grips with all of the systems going on.
What?
This is a type of game world that you could easily lose hundreds of hours in and still want to go back for more. Now let's touch on the technical side of things, because we played on PC and overall the performance was solid. I will put our PC specs down below, and I did play on two different resolutions, 2K and 4K. At 2K, I was always comfortably above 60 frames per second. And at 4K, it held up pretty well too. I was never really lower than 50 frames, often 60 or higher. If you're curious about console performance, well, we didn't get console codes, but the PlayStation Japan channel has uploaded a video with console gameplay in it, and I thought it looked pretty good on there too, to be honest. That said, we did experience a few crashes, which, while annoying, considering the fact that we've got well over 100 hours into the game, it wasn't too bad. And the day one patch also addresses that these things should be fixed, so we'll have to wait and see. But visually, the game looks incredible, especially on the higher end settings with things like path tracing. The difference is night and day. It's just a game that looks really good. The main issue though is bugs. Individually, a lot of the bugs in the game are small, but there are a lot of them and they add up. Some of them are minor things, other things are a bit more serious, like quest bugs that block progression, and it makes it feel like the game could have used a bit more time in the oven to polish these things, especially in the second half of the game, where it almost feels like the game is degrading a bit as you get near the finish line.
Fucking
a lot
fail.
of bugs are addressed in the day one patch, but as said, the further in the game you get, the more sort of things pop up that start to niggle at you. Music-wise though, it's great. There's a lot of Witcher-like music, especially during the boss fights when everything ramps up. It really elevates the atmosphere, so I am a big fan of the music in this one too. So overall, where does this leave us at? Well, Crimson Desert is an incredible game. It's massive, it's ambitious, and it does things that genuinely feel new and exciting. This is honestly the kind of game that people are going to be playing for months. But at the same time, it can be a bit rough around the edges. There are a lot of smaller issues, but there's a lot of them, and they do add up. Basically, in one moment, you'll be having an amazing time and thinking this is one of the best games you've ever played. And then in the next moment, you're going to be completely frustrated with something that pops up. So it's got a little bit of a weird mix of absolute love and frustration. Now, while this might be a more minor issue for some people, some of the different systems and mechanics in the game are actually locked behind certain side content and quest lines. This can make the pacing feel a bit off, and the gear progression does take a while to get used to. And as said before, some puzzles can just hard stop your progress until you figure them out. But despite all of that, you're going to have that itch to keep on playing, because underneath those issues, there's a genuinely fantastic game here. Honestly, it's exceeded our expectations in terms of its scale, its depth, and just how much you can do and have fun.
Okay.
It does feel like it needed a little bit more polish. And on that point, if you compare it to other games like ones we've reviewed here on the channel, like Dragon's Dogma 2 or Monster Hunter Wilds more recently, they both launched with major issues, which we expressed in our review. And that was initially met with criticism until the game came out and people got to try it and see that yes, those things were in the game and were a problem. In Dragon's Dogma 2, this came down to the actual difficulty and the pacing of the story, as well as the lack of enemy variety, which were things we commented on. In Monster Hunter Wilds, it came down to the performance issues, as well as the streamlining being overdone, and the general lack of difficulty in that as well. Luckily for Monster Hunter Wilds, those issues have since been fixed, but it did launch like that. And then if you look at this game, while it does have the various issues we've commented on, the overall experience isn't as impacted by them as other games that had launch struggles.
Okay.
So we actually think even casuals to hardcore players will really enjoy this one, despite the multitude of those lesser nitpicking issues. So we do have to say, yes, the game is extremely overhyped online. But honestly, from everything we've experienced, the full completed story, exploring the world, doing side things, uncovering secrets and puzzles and everything else, it actually lives up to it. And that's because at the core of this game, the majority of it is just spectacular. And hey, I'm sure all of our minor nitpicks can be easily fixed with patches because they're not core major things in the game. But what do you guys think? Are you going to be picking up Crimson Desert? Do tell us down below, and subscribe because we will have more coming your way soon on Crimson Desert. So lock in down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Here at Eric's Gaming,
video.
we're two friends.
We gotta play the game. I haven't seen enough. I think we gotta play the game, bro. I think just the fact that like everybody's experiencing like everybody's experience is it's more surprising and fatal at the same time. It's like literally what like the reviews been saying. It's mixed. It's like people like it and they like there's things that they just don't like about it, but things they don't like about it is mainly things they have got to fix on, like bug fixes and stuff like that, and they can control the problems. But like the core game seems to be fun apparently, because like you going through a world and you don't know what you're finna find out there. You don't know what this mechanic finna do. So that seems to be the type of game that I'm probably looking for. My heart is telling me yes, but my man is telling me wait.